All right, we are in LA and back in conversation with the East Coast, New Jersey. Um, Padma, you have a background of accomplishments that are all about human capital, and meaning what I call
Mhm.
people. And educated in psychology, HR management, and labor relations. Have to look at my notes for all this actually. Um, management and executive positions in major corporations, from financial
Mhm.
services, as you mentioned, to telecom, pharma, and medical devices. Share with us how you've evolved in your career and tell us, I want to know, are you at the place of this is where I want to be when I grow up type of deal?
I think I'll stop growing up when I go to the grave. So I basically feel that I'm actually at a nice spot in my life and in my career because I've learned some great things with great team members, great leaders, and great friends and associates. And I'm at a nice sweet spot where I want to be in life, both professionally and personally.
Hmm.
So professionally, I've built my career around convergence. I've helped companies deliver on convergence with increased value proposition, return on investment, return on invested capital, or returns. And in a world where that's become what I would call a competitive advantage, I feel that I'm in a sweet spot. And personally, I feel that I have a great point in my life where I've learned how to balance work and life. And I don't believe today in work-life balance, but I believe in work-life harmony. With all of technology and the exposure to technology, etc., we all talk about wellness. Wellness has become a theme. So I'm a big believer in harmony.
Harmony is good, just like earth, wind, and fire. Harmony is good.
There you go.
And especially you do a lot of work globally. That becomes both a challenge and an opportunity as well, right?
It does become a challenge and an opportunity. The opportunity, if I could focus on the positive side of the equation, opportunity is because you have such diverse background of people, such great experiences that come to the table. Leaders are no longer have to be the know-it-all. They don't have to be the one who has the solution.
Right.
I'm a big believer that gone are the times of hierarchical organizations. Organizations are taking much more of a net-like approach, if you use that term. It's one of my favorite terms, where you really have to look to the expert, whether it's a geographical expert, a technical expert, or a segment expert. Look to the expert to lead. And how does a leader and team, how do they actually modulate themselves to be able to look to the expert and follow that lead, but yet cohesively deliver results? So for that, a global environment and a holistic environment is highly beneficial. The challenge of actually having a global environment is the differences in approach and behavior. So, if I could give an example, typically in America, we like to articulate a strategy, build a plan, and then build the details and execute on the plan. In Japan, the favorite term is nemawashi. So before you walk into a decision, you actually talk to all the stakeholders, you convince them, and then you tell the boss where things stand, because it's a very hierarchical, respectful culture. And the meeting where you make the decision is actually a politically appropriate environment where just, people nod their head and agree upon. In China, strategy is discussed ad nauseum, then it becomes silent because you see the thin muslin cloth under which people are working and scurrying about. And then the muslin cloth goes away, and you see the strategy and execution piece is very clearly aligned. And these differences in typically in how people behave, how businesses are conducted, is a challenge if one doesn't really have the capacity or the time to be able to bring them together and appreciate the differences.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. You know, having been HR leader, professionally as you have, you've been one that has been really involved in company business, and I've always believed, and it seems like just obvious to me that HR should be at the strategy table all the time because you're talking about your number one asset, people.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, Tell us the value that being at the strategy table really does bring to have, to use a sports to be consistent winning seasons for a company.
I think having a seat at the table is something that HR is responsible for. I think as an HR leader, one has to be comfortable getting to know the business intimately, not partnering with the business. I need to know the business it's a part of the table stakes, right? Do I know the financials? Do I know the portfolio? Do I know the product offering? Do I know the differentiation? Do I know the competitive landscape? When I know all of that, bringing that talent equation in the context of where the company is in its personal evolution life cycle, and also in the grand scheme of things, actually puts the HR leader at the strategy table. And so I believe that for me, the way I think about this is it's for the HR leader in the asking, especially in today's world, where if you look at the top 3 concerns of most CEOs, one of them is talent.
Absolutely.
So I'm a big believer that HR can have tremendous amount of impact, because the way you look at how you manage your talent to deliver, let's talk about an annual operating plan, and I'm not using HR terms here. And if a company has a 5-year strategic plan, it continues to evolve because the workplace, the market is constantly shifting. And being able to adjust the talent, being able to adjust the reward mechanism is so interesting. The dynamics are so interesting. And having that play happen as an evolution rather than seismic shift is very important. Otherwise, it could have a direct impact on the company's stock price.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a great word. Evolution. With our executive search firm, with our clients, we talk a lot about the two most important words are right fit
Mm-hmm.
of people together, and then developing the leaders and then retaining them, obviously. Um, One of the most important topics related to that, or a couple of important topics, are employee engagement, as you referred to
Mm-hmm.
earlier, as well as trust. And trust evolves. And if you develop trust and develop employee engagement, um, things happen with that number one asset, talent. So, can you tell us from your experiences then, with all that in mind, what do leaders who I agree don't have to know everything, but they have to know how to get the employees engaged. What do leaders that are successful offer to and maybe create for their people to ensure their success, which should then ensure the business success?
Absolutely. So let's stay away for a few moments away from talent development and offering. Let's talk a little bit about leadership, because for me, the way I think about this is as a colleague, I'm looking to my leader. And as colleagues on my team members are looking to me.
Hmm.
So, what is important for me, the way I think about leaders, is that do they have the right repertoire of styles and know what style that they use given a situation or the team of people that they're managing or leading?
Hmm.
And that's used authentically.
Keyword.
And that's going to be an important attribute in today's complex world. So, communication becomes for me a component of style. The next piece that I think about is accountability is mandatory. Does a leader share in the success and take the accountability? Ethics is a responsibility. We're seeing people from multi-generation globalization. Ethics is a very broad word that's got different meanings in different parts of the world, with the different people in different generation. The ability to make tough decisions and stand by it, and being able to make risk reward trade-offs. So comes challenging times or tough times or complex times. Does the leader know how to keep up the confidence level and assure everyone that setbacks are natural? And let's focus on the larger goal. Does the leader lead by example and hold himself or herself at a higher standard? When we think of this, people then naturally think of contributing to an organization and the greater purpose
Hmm.
before they think of themselves. And then when they reflect internally, I think about organizations as starting to shift and move from learning organization to have a balance between learning and knowledge organizations, because there's so much dearth of information outside. Opportunities to learn at best are cheap, if not free. So colleagues are going out there and learning things on their own, and they're looking to have experience in the workplace. So for leaders to be able to give that balance and an opportunity to say, when can I help a colleague on my team learn and how? It could be a contractual agreement, if I could put it in that term, within the company or outside. And when and how do I give the opportunity for this colleague to have experience? And it could be the same contractual agreement, is it inside the company or outside? And that kind of a broader equation, when somebody thinks of it, I think colleagues become much more involved, thereby engaged. And then there's this mutual win-win situation of how do I help the company win? Because the company is helping me win and achieve my life goals, rather than what is your career path?
Yeah, I think that's actually brilliant because if you do make people around you better and you do have them, then obviously you will win. If you the obvious thing they say all the time is a leader doesn't take all the credit for themselves. In the same way, if you get your people, if you give your people the opportunity to win, then you will win. I notice very much so, especially with younger up and coming executives, they're not so much into the stuff anymore, like the biggest house or the biggest car. They're interested in experiences. I don't just mean
Exactly.
experience, but experiences.
Exactly.
And if they're growing, as you said, then you got a good chance of the business doing very well because of that. And so leading from that, you mentioned diversity before, and I think you
Mm-hmm.
might have even mentioned wellness. And I have these conversations also a lot with leaders of businesses that, we talk a lot about diversity and wellness, but there's there, wellness is more than just putting a gym into your office, where people sometimes are even afraid to go because they don't want their boss seeing them working out, type of thing. And diversity is obviously more than just men, women, black, white. It's actually skill sets, and it's actually flavor and passion and interesting perspectives and whatnot. How do you see, these assets being able to, to yield better ROI for the company in general?
So, Mark, you're spot on. I'm a huge fan of diversity, but diversity beyond gender and ethnicity. So, I kind of alluded to convergence. Convergence is very complex, and the rate at which information is coming to a person is faster than it's ever been. I don't think I can even have enough time to read things, let alone assimilate and have a point of view. So for me, that diversity, or for any leader, that diversity in perspective, diversity in expertise, diversity in experience, therefore diversity in thought and approach,
Right.
is extremely important, because that's when, as a leader, he or she, so if I could use myself as an example, I'm best utilizing my time. I'm making the smarter decisions, and I'm able to think about pros, cons, various perspectives, various dimensions, and then be able to actually deliver better results than probably like-minded people with different,
Sure.
people of different age groups and different gender and ethnicity alone would yield. So for me, I feel that that is going to be of great significance, especially in today's world.
That's great. That makes sense. A few
So
persons, you
wellness
actually,
standpoint.
I'm sorry?
So I'm sorry, you talked about wellness.
We talked
I
about,
didn't
yeah.
do.
Um, Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So wellness is just as important. So for example, global people are in different time zones, and you're constantly receiving work-related information, or you're expected to respond or act upon work-related 24/7 potentially. So being able to create that harmony between mind, body, and soul, if I could call that. I'm a big believer that being able to feed the mind, body, and soul just as much and develop it just as much is very important for the holistic well-being of an individual and an organization. Because an organization is just a group of people. So being able to allow that is going to be especially important because then it develops what I call as the creative powers of an individual.
Right.
And I'm a big believer, if I can just lean on a little bit more philosophically and probably mostly say this, I'm beginning to believe that we're moving from a very competitive world to a creative world.
Absolutely.
And you're starting to see companies who used to compete or who never even thought about partnering are starting to collaborate and give winning solutions. And that comes from a creative space where people start to create and have outstanding results. So to me, wellness is even more important than anything else. It's not about sitting and watching TV for 2 hours or reading a book, yes, but that's just basics.
Now, creativity is becoming a big topic in businesses right now, beyond just being creative, but actually just allowing your mind to be creative. But and that's a whole other conversation as well. Couple of personal questions. You already answered the first one. You do have a dog. What's his name?
Her name is Sasha, and she's absolutely a princess. She's the boss of her life. So therefore, even though we love her, she always comes first because she makes sure she tells us that.
I know the feeling. So these are kind of 1 and 2 word answers type of things. Do you have a favorite activity or sport?
Yoga.
Good choice these days. How about a movie or TV show?
Big Bang Theory.
Oh, interesting. Okay. um,
More
favorite?
than one word. Sorry, Mark.
No, that's okay. Then we'll delete those extra words off the next one. No. How about favorite book potentially?
Books on philosophy lately because I'm a big believer that philosophy teaches me to be a better leader.
Good answer. How about favorite music and food?
Classical Indian music. I'm a trained classical singer in Indian music.
Oh, you'll have to give us an
And
example.
on another day in another interview. And food, I'm a vegetarian as long as anything that's vegetarian. Love different kinds of food.
Excellent. Good stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. Have a good day.